Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
We didn't do it fast enough. Welcome to this week's episode of Stay Off My Lawn. It's May 20th, 2025, and this is episode 118.
Woohoo!
And we're going to forego that stupid holidays of the week because it's been such a busy week. We got to jump right into this because we are packed chock full of nuts. Chock full of entertainment and enlightenment and all that stuff.
Wait, there's entertainment in this too? Really?
It's inadvertent, but it happens. Here's a news story you might have missed. We're going to jump off on this real quick. Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo asked FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino about the Epstein suicide. And, we've all kind of questioned this, but he tried to clear it up.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I just don't know. Neither one of us are convinced.
Their mouths were saying, believe me. Bongino's eyes said, we're setting somebody up. I don't know. It was just, I've watched a fair amount of his show before he went back to serving our country again. And when it's the real deal, there's a different air about him.
No, you're right.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
No, because
if you're working at trying to set somebody else up by saying, they're going, okay, I can relax now, and then wham, we get him.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right though. When you watched him, because I watched a lot of his, I didn't listen to his podcast. I used to watch it on YouTube once in a while, and he would get fired up. He was always very stern. May not be the right word, but he was always very confident in what he was saying when he was given information like that.
Yes.
That didn't really, that didn't hit me that way.
The super air of confidence was I just missed it. Okay.
Yeah.
You said it. Okie dokies. If you're saying.
We'll just have to wait and see. I bet there's more to this, and we'll probably hear more about it. And maybe we won't. I don't know. But I'm still not
too much
convinced.
hinky stuff that the timing is just way too. How do you have that many quinky dinks at the same time?
Yeah.
Sleeping, camera going out. It all comes back and. Oh, he's done in already.
Yeah. Even the leftist media, when it first happened, didn't seem like they were convinced that it is what they reported it to be. So, I trust these guys. I like these guys, but at the same time, they're human beings and they might have a reason to lie. I don't know. I don't want to call anybody a liar, but it just doesn't seem like it adds up to me. But, he said we're entitled to our opinion, and there it is.
And you can take our opinion all the way to the bank, and you'll get the same thing we get for our opinion at the bank. Pen chained to the desk.
Like my dad used to say, that and 25 cents will get you a cup of coffee. And of course, there's been inflation now. It's
a cup of coffee. Good luck with
it's
that.
$1.87 now. But anyway, before we get to the big news from the week, let's revisit something that Kamala Harris had to say during the vice presidential debate with Mike Pence back in 2020. This is pretty interesting.
Under the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents?
Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest. He is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he put it all out there when he was taking a shower with Ashley. I don't know, but I mean,
Well, transparent, his skin is getting thin.
well, that's true. You can see the veins in his forehead now really, really well. Of course, the big news is that Biden has prostate cancer and is spread to his bones, which sounds pretty terrible. But it's sad, and nobody wants to. We've had cancer in our family since I can remember. My dad had it when I was younger, and it's not anything to celebrate. And if you're celebrating this, go listen to a different podcast. We don't have any room for you for that. But Joe said something back in 2022, and I thought that it would be interesting to revisit because maybe there was a little unveiling that we didn't realize.
You know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
I remember when he said that, you and I, we just thought he misspoke, or he did sort of like his son dying in Iraq, the whole thing, just making up his own.
He couldn't even remember the year that he passed.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But I mean,
yeah, it's one of those things where, he was getting into the babbling stage of his presidency where you go, what did he say this time?
The proverbial verbal weeds that he gets into. Yeah. But maybe he was saying something that, just wasn't, that was true, that he just didn't think that nobody else knew. I don't know.
Well, all of the expert doctors, do you have anything on that one?
I do. Yeah.
I will wait until he talks.
Yeah. Last summer, White House Dr. Kevin O'Connor swore to the American people that Uncle Joe was completely fit for the presidency. That was his quote. So anyway, this was,
sure he was,
it was, something was missed. NBC News medical contributor, Dr. Vin Gupta, was interviewed on Morning Joe, of all places, on MSNBC. And
don't forget to set your DVRs, because I'm going to tell you that Morning Joe?
That Morning Joe, yes. And he did make mention that his physicals are not that easy to access as previous presidents are. Here's what he had to say.
Did they do a digital rectal exam to assess his prostate? Again, typically that's done in the presence of symptoms. To your point, he's the leader of the free world. Did they do it and not characterize it? It's hard to know. We're speculating here. I would say in an abundance of caution, probably be holistic and comprehensive. That would make sense. It is interesting to note that President Trump's, President Obama's, and President Bush II, in their most recent physicals, in their terms of office, obviously 2025 for President Trump, did comment on their PSA levels. And so they got screened while in office and they commented on it. It's not easy to access the most recent ones from President Biden. You can read the summary articles. I couldn't access it on the archive site on the White House just before I came on. But according to those that were able to, there is not a report of a PSA test on the most recent physical that was read out for President Biden's last year in office.
Why can't they access it?
I have my physical every year, and they always do the blood work. I prefer that. And lean over the table.
I don't think they do that anymore. Not really. I think they rely on the PSA.
It's pretty much a PSA test, and it lets them know what's going on. I never have any issues. So, but you can't just. That was missed. What? No, that should be there someplace.
Yeah, no, it should. I mean,
especially at his age.
Well, especially in his position. I mean, you can't tell me if you and I are getting a PSA test, chances are the president of the United States, and according to this doctor, all previous presidents had it in there. And of course, an elevated PSA, I don't know what the numbers are, but I mean, the higher the number, the more chances are that you have some kind of prostate cancer or whatever going on. We do have somebody else, News Nation Natasha Zubes. I'll be honest, I've never heard of this woman, but I did see this interview. She talked with a urologist about this diagnosis, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is about 2 minutes, so hang on.
I have to say that in my expertise as a urologist, prostate cancer like this doesn't come on just overnight. This happens over a long period of time. And typically you would see a PSA elevation, you would do a biopsy, and then you would do a treatment for the prostate cancer. Then after the prostate cancer is treated, it can actually get worse and spread to different parts of the body. And so it's very unlikely that someone could get annual checkups and not notice a PSA elevation over the past, this is what I typically would see in a VA hospital, where a patient hasn't had medical attention in 10 years, presents to an emergency room with bone pain, and then they find that it's metastatic prostate cancer. But in the modern age of medicine, especially the fact that he was a former president, he had intensive state-of-the-art care where we can see prostate cancer, 10 years in the past. So this is, it's very unusual to hear that someone has prostate cancer where they're annually being followed up. And the fact that we just find it at a Gleason 9 is just pretty much unheard of in this day and age of medicine, even in the even in the inner city populations, we wouldn't see it.
So you're saying even in a medically neglected population, it would be surprising to have a surprise diagnosis with a Gleason score of 9. So you're saying that certainly as he was serving in the Oval Office, you believe that he knew that he had prostate cancer, and even potentially as he was running in 2020 before he assumed office?
Well, most likely he had prostate cancer for a long time, and the aggressive prostate cancer such as this at age 80 grows over a long period of time. I mean, usually it takes from the first diagnosis of prostate cancer to spread would take 5 to 10 years, even in the most aggressive form.
Yeah. Somebody wasn't telling the whole story. So.
Yeah, that's more than a cover up. That's bringing the shovel in twice to make sure the hole is deep enough to do all the covering up. Every doctor I've seen come on, I started talking about it earlier, but every doctor I've seen, and I've seen 3 or 4 different ones that have said, this didn't just happen overnight. Yeah. This didn't happen in the last 100 days. This had to have been going on for the last anywhere from 6 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, you said even if it's that aggressive, I mean, it still takes 5 to 10 years for this to kind of get to the point where it is now.
Yep.
You heard this whole thing about a Gleason score regarding prostate cancer. So just so you know, a score of 5 or below is not considered cancer. 6, cells look normal, but you might have cancer that is growing slowly. 7 is intermediate risk for aggressive cancer, and 8, 9, and 10 is where the cancer is likely to grow aggressively, and where he's at a 9 right now. Now, I don't know whether that's where they find with the PSA, which PSA, if you're not familiar with, is prostate-specific antigen. But anyway, they look for, and maybe that's where the score comes from. I honestly don't know. But
I think that's the one that gives them the indicator. It's an indicator score that, if it's like you said, 5 or below, I know mine always comes up in the normal range. Yeah, because I'm getting to be an old fart. I got 1 more year left of this decade.
1 more year. Yeah, he's going to be the big 6'9".
I just always look at it and they go, oh, your PSA is really good. Okay. It wasn't something I have to be concerned with, so I just ignore it. Yeah. I don't know the numbers.
Exactly. And why would you bother with it? And it's like if you've ever had an MRI, I mean, whenever I've had a few the last few years, and it's like whenever they tell me about, what they're looking for is one thing, but what they find sometimes is maybe not even related. Like they've told me I got gallstones. Okay, what do I do with that? Well, unless it's bothering you, nothing. It's like, plus your prostate is enlarged. They told me that. And it's like, well, it hasn't been feeling so well anyway. And it's like, you joke about it. What are you going to do? I mean, it's like, so what do you do about that? Well, if it's not bothering you, you don't bother. It's like, okay, as long as it's not cancerous or whatever, it's like, but anyway.
Yeah, I have some of my other elderly friends that are horribly jealous because I don't get up at night. Once in a blue moon, if we had a out visiting or whatever, had maybe a beer that was a little later than usual. But otherwise, I don't get up. I sleep 7 hours straight. And they go, what? In 7 hours, I'm up 3 times. I'm going, I'm not.
If I quit drinking earlier in the evening, I keep myself hydrated all day. But so in the evening when we're watching TV, I'll end up, drinking up until 9 o'clock at night. So 4 a.m. I'm awake and I got to go. But if I don't do that, if I stop at 7, which is very hard because I'm just so used to drinking all the time. I always have something with me, some kind of Gatorade, some kind of something.
Yes, that is not hard liquor drinking, people.
No, not that drinking. Yeah.
He's not one of those that does. Yeah. Me, I'll have a couple beers when I'm barbecuing, or if I'm in the booth here and we have a late session, you got to keep pouring water in to keep the pipes lubed up so you can speak and sound professional like we do.
Yeah, because once I started doing voiceover back in 2012, I mean, and you and I both are on the same page with that. You have to stay hydrated, and it become habit for me, even if I'm on vacation somewhere. I mean, it's habit. I drink all day. So anyway, me and my day drinking, we got to stop talking about it. We are up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about cover-ups, believe it or not. And so hang in there. We'll be right back.
The Stay Off My Lawn podcast is recorded before a live studio audience.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Footlong Hot Dog Inventor.
Mr. Footlong Hot Dog Inventor.
When conventional wisdom said no one could make a hot dog longer than 6 inches, you dared to dream.
Dared to dream.
You knew the limitations of a regular-size hot dog bun, and you ignored them.
Can't stop me now.
You made a 10-inch wiener, and people cheered.
Oh.
But you weren't satisfied. You said, wait, I think I can still give you 2 more inches.
Gotta want it.
And so the footlong was born. So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light, Mr. Hot Dog Hero, because you gave every single one of us our fondest wish, a bigger wiener.
Thank you.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and we are continuing. It's called the cover-up show, I think is what we should call it.
It's a cover-up show, and we're having to turn down another layer of sheets because it's warm. Yes, it's too many covers, and they need to all come instead of up. They need to go down.
And we can't afford the AC this week.
Yeah, I'm going the wrong way. What do you have for us?
Yeah, we just need to kick the covers off, man. My feet are hot.
Oh, Lordy.
The book is, a new book is being released today. It's a collaboration between Axios reporter Alex Thompson and CNN's Jake Tapper, of all people.
Oh, there's quality material right there. Honest to the core.
Gotta be good. It's gotta be good. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't get that one out very well. It's like a cat getting rid of a bad fur ball.
It's good chicken, and I help. And it's about the degradation of mental abilities of dear Uncle Joe, and it's called Original Sin.
He had mental abilities?
Well, it's diminished mental abilities. Anyway, it's called Original Sin, and then in quotations, President Biden's decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again. Okay, well, yeah, somebody doesn't understand how to shorten things, but anyway.
Good Lord, did you get a longer title? Sheesh.
It's apparently a big book, but remember CNN's...
A big title and small book.
Okay. Yes, exactly. CNN's Jake Tapper was one of the leading journalists who were aggressively defensive of Biden's cognitive abilities, which was a disastrous thing to do. It was really... Anyway, here's a montage of some of that cover-up by politicians and the media both.
If you're concerned about Joe Biden's age, you probably don't know Joe Biden.
It's not just
making an issue of Biden's age. It's lying. It's saying he's senile. It's saying he's demented. Saying he's out of it.
Biden is actually in good shape.
Right. Mentally, he's quite acute.
Any aide who engages with him or reporters, we can see this. The gears of his mind are working.
The right-wing media has so fixated on Biden and Biden purportedly having cognitive issues.
Russian television has been filled with speculation about President Biden's age, about his mental state of mind.
That's an issue pushed by right-wing media, but it's not correct.
Republicans on the other side have spent 4 years almost kind of weaponizing Biden's age against him. Trump is not that much younger than him.
Biden is just a couple of years older than Donald Trump.
Why so much attention on Biden's age? Trump isn't much younger.
This whole vein is really, really unseemly. I mean, ageism.
I'm going to say quite bluntly, there is some ageism going on here.
Yeah, I think there is some ageism going on.
Biden's personal physician wrote that he, quote, remains a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male.
He is a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male.
He had a good physical. His doctor says he's vigorous.
The reality is nothing like the dystopian picture that the Republicans are trying to paint of this senile, doddering president, and he's as sharp as a tack.
Yeah, you can't believe what you see, apparently. It's not about his age. I mean,
we've all seen people that I just saw the other day a thing that was on America's Got Talent. I think it was British Got Talent. There was Japanese folks got back together. He was 97. I think they were both 97. She's playing the piano part and he's going away on the violin, and his voice it's like, dang.
Wow.
He had a really good voice.
Yeah.
And he was 97 and he stood up there and was playing that violin the whole time they were doing this 2 almost 3-minute deal. So you can't go by somebody's age. Everybody ages differently.
Right.
My grandfather was great right up until about 91, 92. Things weren't fitting together as well anymore.
And we even notice that we forget things now. And it's like my mother started getting a little bit, and she made it to 80. I think she was 81 when she passed. But I mean, towards 79 or whatever, she started kind of getting things jumbled up. She would see a news story and talk to me about it, because we've always been kind of news junkies in my family. But she would try to tell me about it. I said, Mom, that's not how it happened at all. And so we would talk about things. And heck, it's been 20 years now. I can't remember any specifics. But yeah, I mean, everybody kind of, maybe it's diet, and maybe because some people, like you said, 97. They're doing fantastic. And some people
sharp as a tack. I mean, my grandfather was still bucking hay with a couple of snot-nosed kids at 67. So he worked hard all of his life and was really good. He was bowling at 91 with a 150 average.
Wow.
I mean, he just did well and was still quite ambulatory up until he passed at 96, I believe it was.
That's great.
And I got to see him a few months before he passed, and he was having a good day, as my aunt said, because he lived down near her in Arkansas. And you just never know. Some people don't do well. You had George Burns, almost to 100, and was still pretty darn coherent.
So was Betty White. She was almost 100.
Betty White right there. Yep.
Yeah.
So you can't compare age, because once you hit that, like, it seems to be around the 80 mark or the late 70s, somewhere in through there. Yeah. That's when things start changing, and some people it doesn't, and some people it does.
Yeah. I've known people where it's gotten dicey in their 60s. I mean, but it's just.
I resemble that remark. I mean, that's not necessary.
How'd you know I was talking about you? But
I resemble that, so it's okay.
It's not about Trump supposedly has taken the cognitive test, and Joe refused to. I think it's because he was afraid of how it was going to come out. But supposedly Trump has taken it many times and has passed with flying colors every time. So
I'm not sure that he refused to as much as all of his handlers didn't.
Well, somebody refused to
let him take it. Yeah. There was somebody pushing Joe out there like, good job, Joe. You answered all the questions just like a good little first grader. What the hell?
That really turned my stomach when she did
that.
But I still blame her for a lot of what's going on, for her pushing him. I think she was addicted to the limelight, to the power, to everything that came with being a first lady. Yeah, about money, you know, because all that influence can be negotiated into money. Absolutely. Anyway, it seems like this book is largely focused on the cover-up of his physical breakdown. There was talk among the aides, supposedly, once the election was over, they were going to start putting him in a wheelchair. They wanted to do it ahead of time. They wanted to do it in 2024, supposedly, according to some of the stories I saw, that they said no because it wouldn't look good for the election. So, but maybe it's part of that bone pain from the cancer. You know, I don't know.
You know, if that's where it spread to, that would explain a lot of the tripping and not being able to pick your feet up. And I can tell that Trump's slowing down a little bit. I mean, he had that long flight over to Qatar, and he looked a little tired that first day. And he's someone that doesn't sleep a lot anyway.
I think it's
they
4
say he
hours
only
a night.
sleeps somewhere between 4 at the most 5 hours a night.
I think he's always been that way, but as you get older, you know, I mean, I don't know. But you know, he's 78, right? Is that not correct? He's 78.
Correct.
So anyway, there was a fundraiser back, if you remember this, I don't remember what month it was. It was while Joe was still running, but George Clooney threw a fundraiser for Uncle Joe out in California. And it's come out now that when Joe and Clooney got together that day, Joe had no idea who he was. I mean, and they'd known each other for decades. Jake Tapper actually talked about this the other day on how that actually happened.
So President Biden came into that Los Angeles fundraiser June 15th. And behind the scenes, there were little tiny fundraisers for the big donors. There was the event on stage with Jimmy Kimmel and Barack Obama, but then also behind the scenes, photographs and smaller speeches for big donors. And it was there that President Biden walked over to George Clooney, and Clooney realized, and other people witnessing realized, that Biden did not recognize him. This despite the fact that they'd known each other since roughly after 9/11. They'd had many meetings when Biden was vice president. They'd known each other for a long time. Biden had awarded him a Kennedy Center award in December 2022. And obviously, Clooney was throwing this fundraiser for him, a record-setting fundraiser. And Biden was just walking around saying, hello, thanks for being here. Hello, thanks for being here. And an aide said, you know George. And the president was like, yeah, sure. How are you? Thanks for being here. And the aide had to say, no, George Clooney. And it was just shocking for everyone involved. And in fact, it wasn't just those in that specific conversation that were shocked. President Obama was there. He was stunned. He attributed it to the rough schedule that Biden had going from Europe to Delaware, back to Europe, and then to LA. But he realized later on that it wasn't just the schedule that was the issue.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, schedule didn't have anything to do with it.
No.
And they're all just shocked. They knew good and well that he was on the decline. You're not going to be around a man every single day and not notice. Give me a break.
I mean, the thing is, we've known Biden since he was a senator, and how he was at one point, and how he was different. I mean, even after he left the vice presidency, I mean, he declined since then.
Yeah.
Prior to the 2020 election, that's why they kept him in the basement.
That's why he didn't go. He doesn't have to go out and stump for votes. Let's put him where he won't do any damage.
Exactly.
We'll still elect him.
And we'll blame it on COVID. We'll just keep him down there. Anyway, all that caused Clooney to write an op-ed in the New York Times on how he should drop out of the race, which everybody jumped up and down about. Anyway,
how dare he?
So let me see here. Wait a minute. Tapper, let me see. I think I lost my place.
You've got so many clips.
I do. Yeah, I've got one more before I get there. Jake Tapper actually gave us a little more behind the scenes of the tactics of the left-wing media when explaining another infamous scene from that specific fundraiser. So let's do that first.
Look, and you bring up President Obama because there was a moment at that fundraiser And that fundraiser really was a key moment for a lot of people in this history, which you so brilliantly document. But President Biden walked down to the end of the stage of this fundraiser for a moment and seemed to stare a little blankly into the crowd. And then President Obama tugged on him. You saw that tug and led him off the stage. So you just said you spoke to a lot of people who were there for that. What else did they tell you about it?
Well, Obama's side of that story is he wasn't sure what was going on, but he just wanted to get out of there. And he wasn't going to get out of there without Biden. So he grabbed him, and it was more just his impatience than anything else. But other people who were there, and we should note that the Biden White House falsely, when people showed that clip and asked what was going on, said it was a cheap fake. They did this all the time when there was video that seemed to show Biden acting in an odd or unusual, seemingly out of it way. They would call it a cheap fake. It was not fake. It was actual video. And people in the arena who did not see the horrifying scene behind the stage, but in the arena, Congresswoman Annie Kuster, Jon Favreau, former Obama chief speechwriter, and others, just from that event and Biden walking towards the edge of the stage, thought, oh my God, something is wrong here. He's not going to make it.
You know, that whole cheap fake, remember that was Karine Jean-Pierre that would kept throwing that out there.
Yeah, and they're still trying to pull the cheap fake stuff. Oh, well, that was digitized with the MS-13. That's not what it said. And they won't stop. It's like, sorry, but you have no credibility anymore.
I heard somebody float this. Well, we don't understand the language. Maybe MS-13. It was just it was a happy accident type thing. Oh my gosh. You know, I mean, I think the other cheap fake that she said was when he was in, I think he was in Normandy. Joe was in Normandy, and Georgia Maloney was kind of like had to pull him back over. It's like, don't look at the parachute people and come over here. You need to.
That's right. It was her that went and got him, and and then we have the famous bunny incident.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that whole.
Don't. Hi, it's me. Let's go over this way. Don't talk to these people because somebody's going to report on what you just said.
Joe looked ticked at that point too. I remember that.
Oh.
Anyway, when Clooney wrote that op-ed, it was only a couple of weeks later, I think, about 3 weeks later. So this is what he had to say about that.
It was a civic duty because I found that people on my side of the street, I'm a Democrat. I was a Democrat in Kentucky, so I get it. When I saw people on my side of the street not telling the truth, I thought that was time to.
Are people still mad at you for that?
Some people, sure. It's okay.
I got to give Clooney credit for that. He saw the problem. And really, if you got functioning eyes, I don't know how you didn't see it anyway. I just have no idea.
Yeah, because the White House was covering it all up. And Jake Tapper, he didn't see any of this. Why were they covering this up?
Yeah, I'm not buying any of that either.
No.
We're going to have it's going to be summed up by Martha McCallum. She actually had a very brilliant sum up for all this. But we'll do that when we come back. We're up against a break, so hang in.
I love the Stay Off My Lawn podcast. In fact, everyone loves it. You know why? Because they're well-informed and make me laugh. It's a winning combination, and I know all about winning combinations.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
I know I saw it. Can you see it? Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. And as promised, I did say that Martha McCallum from Fox News, she actually summed up this whole thing very brilliantly. And really, I'm not believing anything Jake Tapper's selling. We were talking about this during the break. He was part of the problem. And now he's trying to step back and go, wow.
His fake annoyance is really irritating in that, why, it was the White House. They will cover everything. We had no idea. What, are you going around like hear no evil and you were see no evil? Yeah. What the hell? You can't
tell me he didn't get a memo from the White House and say, don't say anything about his goof ups during the speeches and the tripping over things that aren't there, trying to shake hands with people that aren't there. Don't say anything about that. Oh boy. Anyway. Yeah. Here's Martha McCallum wrapping it up.
Sometimes you have to love the country more than you love your party and winning. And there was no person who stood out in terms of their integrity and their ability to say, I really care about this president. I like him, but I must say what I see. Short of maybe George Clooney at that point.
Dean
but
Phillips.
there is no, you cannot say that winning is important enough to put someone in office or even have them be the nominee who can't function. And I think there needs to be a hearing. And I think the question of why no one said, look, this might have been why there's a 25th Amendment. Because there's no one at home. There's nothing on his schedule. He's not meeting with his cabinet members. Months and months and months go by. The cabinet members are like, nobody calls me back. So that's a real problem in terms of national security and leadership and presidency.
I think that's also it. I mean, whenever the right-wing media, which there's a lot of online stuff, Fox News, I don't even count them too much. But, there's a lot of people questioning his hours of operation were only like from 10 to 4 the last couple of years. I mean, he was unavailable otherwise.
He was not there in the morning. And because of that and because of his cognitive stuff that's coming out now, there's all kinds of chit chat about that auto pen.
Oh, yeah.
Going. Who was doing that? Somebody did it, and it wasn't him. Because you would ask him, "Oh, did you do this, President?" The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, right? Yeah. He was asking him, "No, you signed this that we can no longer send out." "Oh, no, I meant that was no, sir. That was your signature on there." He had no idea what he was even talking about.
Yeah, that was the natural gas deal from Louisiana. Absolutely.
Louisiana, yeah. So don't tell me that he gave all those pardons and knew every one of them that he gave.
Oh, there was hundreds of them, right? I mean, there was
it was like 1,800 of them.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And if they've been done with auto pen, my wife and I were talking about this the other day. Can they not be rescinded? They can't be.
That's what they're talking about now because this business of him being cognitively impaired. Well, that's a word and a half. Cognitively impaired. Is he was unaware of and had no idea.
Right.
And if he didn't know that was being done, he didn't do them.
And as part of that cognitive thing, I've been trying to come up with a different way to say this. I was thinking about it this morning. I think when they decided to let Joe run for office, because they kind of eliminated Hillary and Bernie and all the other people that were trying to run in 2020. I think he was, and I can't think of another way to say it, he was the useful idiot. They figured he'd always wanted to be president, and he was malleable as a silly putty, and we'll just put him in there and we'll run our extreme left-wing agenda under the guise of being a moderate, because supposedly that's what Joe has always been. And then and it worked. It worked brilliantly. I mean, except for those of us who are discredited by saying he's not all there. I think but that's why the country is in the state it's in right now, and why it's taking so long to get things unwrapped that had been screwed up for those 4 years. Whoever was running
just like
Joe.
In the Clooney thing, this is George, and he goes, "Oh, well, thanks for being here." No, this is George Clooney. Yeah. You remember George Clooney, right? Yeah. Well, they were doing the same thing. Oh, yes, sir. You've already signed this. This was for the. Okay. Yeah. And it was old Bummer who was in his sweats in his basement, who was, the stuff that he said. Gee, if I could do that,
that would only make sense. I mean, because like he said, he tipped his hand with that comment. And I think that's what actually was going on.
KJP once, when she was at the podium, went, and I was speaking with President Obama. Silly of me. I mean, President Biden.
Now, if she was press secretary under Obama, I'd be, okay, that was a slip of the tongue. But she was not. She was not even involved in government at that point.
That was stuff that makes you go, What was that? Could you repeat that, please?
But yeah, it's there's just so much. We'll never get to the bottom of all this, but it is pretty telling, some of this stuff, and you put it all together. I mean, you can make summations, and it is what it is. We're finally going to move on from this, but and I hate the Joes in the state that he's at. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate him. I don't hate Obama. I don't hate anybody. But at the same time, I really don't like the fact that people are pushing this country, the whole DEI stuff and all that crap that they brought into office the last 4 years, pushing our country in that direction because most of the people are not on board with all that. Put it like that. So, we'll move on. There's been a lot of talk in the media lately about a 747 that Qatar wants to give the U.S. government, and all the criticism.
One thing on that, I'm sorry, I heard the Prince of Qatar say Qatar.
Oh, really?
I don't know where the Qatar thing has come from, and it's still being said both ways on the same stupid news channel. One says Qatar, one. I've always known it as Qatar, and when the Prince of Qatar said Qatar, I'm staying with the guy who lives there.
I'm glad you said that, because I did not hear that. So that good. I'll move my pronunciation over to the.
Yeah, I'm not getting after you. It's the news. It's like you hear stuff one time. It's like I went, who's Qatar? What nation? I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Qatar? And that's what the guy called it was Qatar.
I've always thought it was correct by Qatar, but because the smart people have said that, so I'm like going, okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like, have we been pronouncing it wrong? And then when the prince gets up there and says the name of his country as Qatar, I'm going with the way he said it.
No doubt. Directly from the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, we've got the correct pronunciation. Anyway, that 747 that they want to give the U.S. government. Some of these people are trying to say that they're trying to give it to Trump. They're trying to give it to the U.S. government. All kinds
and he says it's going to the military branch, or what is it?
I think the DOD is where it's going to. I think
Department of Defense. He's not going to get it.
No, goodness gracious. But anyway, they've had an order in at Boeing for a new Air Force One for over 10 years now.
It's been a while. It's like, what? Boeing is. I don't know if I want to fly in Boeings anymore. They're
the doors don't want to stay on, and
the bozo that was running it before, which I don't use that word lightly, as we all know, I do have a bozo in my booth. I have a little blow-up bozo doll. The one when you were a kid you'd punch. Anyhow, it's little 7. But he was doing nothing but trying to make Boeing look good by cutting this and cutting that and cutting the workforce and cut. Oh, look at how profitable we are. And the way they were making planes and having problems with the planes that they did make. And it takes a long time to get that workforce. It's not here, you're just going to put this bolt on this. You're a little more skilled than that. And he really screwed the company.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the past, those planes didn't take anywhere near as long to build. I mean, 10 years for an Air Force One. Basically, it's a stripped plane anyway, because the CIA or whoever kind of puts all the comms and stuff in there. I mean, that's all got to be done on their end, not on Boeing's end. So I don't understand what's taking so long.
Well, that's the one thing they're saying about this 747. Yeah, we accept this plane. Do you think we're just going to start putting the president in it, flying it? Exactly. No, that thing's going to be stripped down to the walls, and then they're going to have to go back through and put everything in it again if the president was to fly in it. So,
and Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen was asked about this, and he said precisely what you just said. And but there's a little bit of a backstory with it too, so that a lot of people didn't know about.
Why wouldn't the country of the United States take a 747? But here's what's interesting to me. What the media isn't telling you, what no one's talking to you about, is this same 747 has been in negotiations for a year. The Biden administration is the one that started these conversations. It didn't start underneath the Trump administration. Why? Because we need a backup for Air Force One. Because right now, the president of the United States is flying around on a 40-year-old plane, and there is no backup for it. The backup we had, the airframe started having structural issues. No one's discussing that part. They're just discussing that the deal ended with President Trump. Maybe the media doesn't know. Maybe I'll give them a pass. Maybe you didn't know. I'll give you the pass. I'll give you a pass on that one. But the fact is, this conversation started with Qatar, with Biden a year ago.
So there's Qatar again, but I mean it's a 50-50 split. I've heard.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I've been hearing both, and I'm going, what country is Qatar? I've never heard that. The other thing with this deal is it's the Dems all making a big brouhaha out of, well, he shouldn't be acceptable. Funny they didn't say crap when Clinton got a very nice like a Bell helicopter from some. He's still using it to this day.
Right. Yeah.
As a personal gift.
Which to me has corruption written all over it. That should never have happened.
You don't think?
Yeah. So I mean, but no, the media is not going to report on that. My goodness.
Oh, that was way back when he was. That's not important today, however.
It's not relevant.
I am so tired of the double standards of just making me just grit my teeth.
I think they're all going to go out of business here pretty soon. So maybe that'll all go away.
Things are going. They're still in the low 20s. It's not moving. It's not gaining at all.
No, not at all.
We're moving on. Are we going to?
We are moving on. I grew up near the beach in Florida, and for some reason, I have never in my life, and plus we've been to the beach in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and all over Florida, and I have never, not once, found a political statement written in the sand with seashells. Not once. James Comey, though, according to his Instagram page, the former FBI director, has happened twice to him. I don't know what beach he goes to be honest. He could have been New Jersey, which all kinds of weird stuff could be in New Jersey. Who knows? But this was within 6 months of each other. If y'all haven't heard about this, he randomly found a shell formation. I'm sure you've heard about this. That says,
"Oh no, his wife found it."
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah, see, his wife found it. Well, I wonder why somebody would put an 86 why would they put a house address here on the beach? And if you have the
I've got the clip of that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's. I won't go any further. Let me hear it.
Let's play that and then we'll go.
You were back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
So take me back to the walk on the beach.
We were walking on the beach. We went to the beach to prepare for this week, which was the launch of my book, and to think about the book and to prepare to answer questions about it. And we were walking back towards the road, and we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, "Why would someone put an address in the sand?" And I said, "I don't know." And we stood over it, and I said, "I think it's some kind of like political message." And she said, 86, when I was a server, she did a lot of work in restaurants, meant to remove an item from the menu when you ran out of ingredients. And I said, well, to me, as a kid, it always meant to leave a place, to ditch a place. I said, that's really clever. So then she said, you should take a picture of that. And I did. And I posted it on my Instagram account and thought nothing more of it until I heard through her that people were saying it was some sort of a call for assassination, which is crazy. But I took it down. Even if I think it's crazy, I don't want to be associated with violence of any kind.
I'm just not buying it.
I don't trust him any farther than I could throw him. And if you know how big he is, he's like 6'6" or something.
Yeah,
and I'm 5'5". Yeah, I could throw him about in front of me, if that. And it's like, give me a break. He's about as honest as the day is short.
Well, I'm like his wife, though. I mean, I grew up working at a restaurant, and I understood the 86 thing, and it just means it's not on the menu anymore. We're out. But when I first saw the 8647 on social media about a month ago, I didn't put it together. I just thought, well, they want to get him out of office. So I do understand that thought process. But this is the ex-FBI director.
If he doesn't know that 86, and if he's not familiar with, what do we call it? The underworld?
Yeah.
Is that a good way of putting it?
Criminal culture, gang culture.
Because 86 and that meant when they were having a lot of the wars, if you will, in amongst the underworld folks in Vegas, it was take him 8 miles out of town and make sure he's 6 feet under.
Yeah.
That's what the 86 was. Well, 47. Let me see. What president do we have a number for now?
Hey, Joey, make sure he doesn't come back to this place anymore. So anyway,
Are you serious? Give me a break with that.
Yeah, I don't think as FBI director that story flies very well.
No.
Anyway, we'll finish up this story when we come back. We're up against the break, so hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're in our demographic, it might be a good time to go and pee. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Memorial Day weekend, the start of summer. A 3-day weekend of furniture and car sales, barbecues and gatherings with friends and family. But it's not just about that. It's about honoring the fallen, the ones who gave all so we can live free. This Memorial Day, pause for the national moment of remembrance. Display your flag proudly. Visit a national cemetery or memorial. Pray for the fallen's loved ones, the men and women serving now, and our nation. We honor, we remember, and then we celebrate. Learn more about Memorial Day at memorialdayfoundation.org. In memory of many, in honor of all. That's how we are. We stay focused around here. Focus. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. Segment 4.
Squirrel. What? Oh, yeah, that's right. We're focused.
Squirrels, they're cute. Benny Johnson interviewed Associate Deputy Attorney General Ed Martin and was asked about this whole thing with James Comey, and this is what he had to say.
First thing that happens, he says, I didn't know that meant that. Well, there'll probably be some people that he worked with that will testify, he knew, or there might even be a paper trail that says he used that phrase and everybody knew. But there'll also be a point where a jury will be asked, a fact finder, like, shouldn't the guy know? Like, here's a record of what you're doing. It's not like he, moved to the country last, week from, Papua New Guinea and had never been exposed to the media or the law. This is, a seasoned professional who knows. And look, he took it down so fast. He knows he made a mistake. But I don't think this statute is one that you sort of take back. It's pretty clear. You post it, you do it. That may mitigate his jail sentence or something like that. But I think he's got a problem. And as you point out, perjury traps are next because he's got to either lie or tell the truth. And when he chooses that, he's either going to jail on one or he's going to jail on the other. So I don't know. Is he a drinker? Was someone impaired? Because this was a colossal misjudgment by somebody who should have known better.
I like this guy. He sounds very caffeinated. So, really up our alley.
I forgot we were watching the news and this clip came up of him saying, well, it's who would put an address out here? Dear, I think that's a political message. How did we go from a house address to a political message that quick?
I don't know. But I was mentioning before, about 6 months prior to this, he found according to his Instagram account, he found another shell formation, whether it occurred naturally from the waves or it was something that said something.
Mermaids were writing little notes in the sand.
Yes, they were. And they're very pro Kamala Harris, probably. But yeah, the shell formation was about electing Kamala Harris as president. So, I've never run across a shell formation that did that. But it's happened to him twice in 6 months. We live in a different era. So,
he's on a different part of the beach that I'm sure we're allowed to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in Oregon for almost 25 years. We didn't go to the beach very often, but it was an hour away. It was no big deal. But in the times that we went, never once did I see anything other than people writing in the sand with a stick, somebody, Jane Hart's Bob or whatever it was.
Or now it'd be Bob Hart's Joe, but whatever. Yeah, it's Oregon, for goodness sake. Anyway, it's. I think he's in trouble one way or the other. I don't think he's going to go to jail. I don't think he's going to necessarily get prosecuted. But I think that this is, and maybe because he's coming out with a book, I think this was maybe a failed attempt at getting some attention.
Yeah. Well, he's also got another problem on his hands with Doge has found where he had $16 million go direct to his bank account, and it was approved by him.
Is that
It's like,
possible?
really?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. He's as corrupt as he could be, and he's a narcissist. We had a clip that we don't have time for now, but this ex-FBI agent talked about him being just loves the spotlight, and he's a narcissist, and tries to paint himself as a righteous man, and he is anything but. So anyway, speaking of unrighteous people, last week.
What a segue.
See?
Wow, I am in the midst of greatness here.
I done is a professional. The wildly untalented Bruce Springsteen, of course, that's my own take on this.
I've never been a big fan of, other than the one Christmas song was kind of cute, but other than that, I don't listen. Never have listened.
What time is it? Anyway,
you all been good out there.
Yeah. See, I think when you call yourself the boss, you're a narcissistic jerk. I'll just put it out that way. Anyway, regardless of who you vote for, he kicked off his world tour on this whole thing last week in the UK, and he started off with this statement.
The mighty E Street Band is here tonight to call upon the righteous power of art, of music, of rock and roll in dangerous times. In my home, the America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration.
Yeah, the UK, the people who go see him are going to, of course, agree with him because they have no taste anyway.
It's we didn't get our way, so the other people are all bad. They're terrible. Yeah. It's like, what the hell?
Does he still do that podcast with Barack Obama? He was doing a podcast with Barack Obama.
Yeah, he was. I have no idea. I don't think it went anywhere. Nobody was listening, so I think that one kind of petered out also.
I think so too. Not like us. We're wildly famous and people love us. 40 countries.
Yes, that's right. 40 countries, people, and 118 episodes. We're no fly-by-night operation. Let me tell you what. We may sound like it, but we're not.
Oh gosh! Hey, if you thought of good old Uncle Joe was a good example of ineptness, see, I can't even say that. Maybe my cognitive abilities are going here.
Wait, real quick on the Bruce Springsteen. I got to tell people about. There was a meme that President Trump went golfing this weekend, so you see him on the tee and he whoosh, tees off, and then Bruce, by the way, got karma.
Yes.
Got him right quick as he was done with his little speech, going back up on stage. He tripped on the top one and fell flat on his face on the stage.
It looked like the golf ball hit him.
He's going down, the golf ball hits him in the back of the head. So somebody made that point. I thought it was rather humorous. But yes, he did trip getting back up on the stage.
Yeah. It was the same show, right? I mean, it happened.
It was the same thing. He just had finished talking, and he was getting up because he was sitting on the stairs, and he went to get back up on the stage, and one foot didn't get lifted high enough on the last step.
They tried to pick him up, and him being a blue collar guy, you'd think he'd be able to get up. Maybe he had a hard time getting up. He had no stomach muscles or anything. I mean, he's like, you're a talentless old fart. You need to go back home to New Jersey. That's just the way I like
so it. We have a really fun thing coming up. I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's Auntie Nancy. She gave a speech the other day, sponsored by Smirnoff Vodka, helping slur speeches since 1864.
Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank Clark Poston for Arcadio Produce for hosting us today. Make no mistake, President Blunt's senseless tariffs. Imagine Ronald Reagan, the great communitor, the largest tax hike on American families in history. When he made his first vote for President of the United States as a young person, he voted for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who overturned the Smoot-Hawley. I just thought I'd throw that part in.
Good thing that was free.
Medicaid. He and then George Herbert Walker Bush on lowering the cost to stand united against his reckless economic policy. So again, really, and food. He starts out, you'll Google it. I won't do the whole speech. You'll Google it, but then the flowers. Mama and Manny.
Just so you know, a public service announcement, AA is good for anybody at any age. You should be able to, it's got a great...
Did you see the kids that were standing in the line behind her? They were kind of looking over at each other like, what in the hell is going on here?
Oh, my gosh.
That was a good joke. Not a peep out of the audience. They're going, what was funny about that?
The weird thing was she was at a California fruit distributor. I mean, what are you talking about? She's just all over the map. You should give her a teleprompter and a breathalyzer and maybe a cognitive test too. I mean, oh my gosh.
That was just
still serving in Congress.
And she made another speech and she was at a podium somewhere. And I don't remember. It wasn't this one, but there was an additional one. And it was just as bad. Might even have been on the same day and say, well, I drank up for that one. I'm good for the next one, too. I don't know.
Oh, my gosh. That's just brilliant, though. I mean, I hope she speaks more often because I want those clips.
Oh, they're hilarious.
Oh, my gosh.
And I sent that little... You posted something on it, and I had it, and I went, yes, sponsored by Smirnoff Vodka, helping slur speeches since 1864. Yeah. Yes, that's when Smirnoff started. I looked it up.
I mean, Stalin and Lenin, they'd probably stand by that statement 100%.
Lordy.
CNN had a panel the other day of a former communications advisor to Pete Buttigieg, Liz Smith. Talked about how the Democrats lost the election and what her take on all that was. It's pretty brilliant, really.
Are mad. Why the base is mad at some of the leaders in Washington is not because they're not left enough. It's because, Chuck Schumer came out with no strategy, no forewarning, and just said, we're going to fold on the CR. I mean, I think he could have done a better job of explaining what the strategy was and what we're going to do, but there wasn't anything like that. I think Democrats are learning, and I'm going to agree with you that Democrats cannot only be the party of resistance. We cannot, we resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy. We prosecuted him, convicted him of 34 felony counts, and guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we can resist now.
Are you admitting that that the case against Trump in New York was part of the organized Democratic Party resistance?
It was a Democratic prosecutor, and at the time, I thought it was unwise. I went on Fox News and said
there were Democrats who said this at the time.
There were a lot.
Just to be clear, everybody who now touts the 34 felonies. Take it from Liz. This was not a real case. This was a plot to upend the presidential campaign, which backfired.
I just think it was a boneheaded move by Alvin Bragg, but it's not his first or last one. So.
This is why we invite Liz, because she's plain spoken New York Paul, who can really tell it.
She said the quiet part out loud. I love it. Scott Jennings.
She's washing her hands of it. Oh, it was a boneheaded move by him. Wash my hands of it. I have nothing to do with it. What the hell? And then she says, and we tried to. I'm sorry, we who?
We? Mouse in your pocket? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how Jennings caught it with, really? So you just admitted, and now you're saying...
I was expecting her to say, no, that's not what I said at all when he clarified it.
She didn't even go, look, it happened, it's done, it's over. Yeah. Everything's been wiped out anyway. Yeah. There is no 34 convictions, so they could take and... blow that in her ear. Nothing. It all got dismissed and done. So
yeah, it's all gone. And he didn't even have to pardon himself to get it done. It just everything just dissolved. Oh my gosh! Speaking of
with an auto pen, no less. Anyway,
yeah, more to come on that one. Yes, for sure. We need a palate cleanser after all that. Man, there's a lot of stories we got to there. We have a rest of the story about a lost civilization. So now...
The rest of the story. I'm right now looking at one of the most incredible portraits I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it, for certain. It's an artist's rendering of a lost city. Now, we've all heard of ancient and advanced civilizations. This was both. And its 1,000-plus-year-old capital city, well, it justifies description. I'm going to try to describe it, however, to see through the astonished eyes of anthropologists as clearly as this artist obviously did. And no, it's not an exaggeration and it's not a guess. Backward lookers are as certain of what I'm about to tell you as they could be of anything. First of all, the city seems to sprawl outward and onward forever. In fact, it was about 6 square miles of houses and buildings and temples, with an enormous central plaza. Alongside the plaza runs a massive wall some 2.5 miles long. 30, maybe 40,000 people lived and worked in this place. The temples were built on blunted pyramids, at least one of which was a full 10 stories tall. The base of that one was 15 acres, 2 acres greater than that of Egypt's so-called Great Pyramid. This was only one of more than 100 blunted pyramids with temples on top of each. And over there on the left in the distance is something that's amazed archaeologists ever since its discovery. A huge circle of towering columns precisely aligned with the sun at equinox and solstice. This is more than an inference of the intellectual capacity of the ancients who lived there. In fact, their knowledge of mathematics and astronomy would baffle most Harvard undergraduates. This ancient civilization controlled a vast trade network with trade routes spanning thousands of miles. It was ruled by a crowned dictator who lived in the largest and tallest of the temples, who personally rose to greet the sunrise with a shout each morning of his reign. If you're reminded of ancient Babylon as I described this fantastic cityscape, you would be further interested to know that this great metropolis also thrived and vanished, and nobody knows for sure what happened to it. But from 700 to 1500 A.D., that city flourished and then perished, apparently suddenly. The best guess is an ecological crisis, that the prosperous ancients greedily farmed their land year after year until the soil would yield no more, selfishly stripped their forests to build bigger and wider and higher until the forests were dust, and then one day the people too were gone. But their legacy lingers on, and the whispers of warning that rise from the vast empty landscape that was once an advanced civilization may be heard, some say, not in the mystical Far East, nor in the Bible lands of the Middle East, but from the open windows of passing cars on Interstate 70, just east of St. Louis, Missouri, in a place called Illinois. In school, you were told that American history began with the first voyage of Columbus. Now I hope you'll never forget that if Columbus had just kept going, past the Caribbean, on up the Mississippi River, he might have seen for himself the stately structures before they fell into ruin, the majestic metropolis called Cahokia, before it fell, as all great civilizations do, beneath the weight of its own excesses. But now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, you think about that. There's got to be Native Americans that are descendants of those people still alive today. I mean, it's just kind of neat that the way that history is.
Yeah, it's who knew there was something like that in our own country in the 1700s, and farmers today work really hard at trying to take care of the land. A lot of them are going to no-till farming because they say that's the best way to do it. And so
rotating the crops and the whole thing to make sure that you don't deplete it completely. I think that's why the one of the theories is why the South is so full of clay is because it's been farmed so much for hundreds of years, and it's just been depleted from everything. That's why there's so much clay. So interesting. So anyway, for being just in Illinois, I wonder if there's places up there where we could see some of the ruins. That I wonder if they haven't been plowed over or whatever. But anyway, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. I can't even speak today. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, Rumble, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's all, folks. You'll find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. Enjoy us on your drive home. Or, you know what? You can just get the apps for Apple and Android. Or why don't you just go to our good old website, Stay Off My Lawn. It was a little delayed, but we got it there.
I'll fix it
we
in
had
post.
a wonderful.
No, I won't.
No, you won't. We don't fix anything in post.
No, I don't.
We had a wonderful time, folks. Thanks, everybody, so much for listening to us. We appreciate each and every one of you.
And we'll see you next week, folks.
Toodles.
Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.